You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Data Center Therapy, a podcast from Ivoxy Consulting that talks all things IT with a healthy dose, healthy emphasis on that one this time around, a healthy dose of empathy. I'm your host, Matt. In Seattle, social distancing is just a Tuesday, Yette, and alongside me is my co-host, Mr. Matt Cozzolino.
I'd love to wash your hands for you.
That's very kind of you. Well, each episode we dive into the wide range of technology that make up this beautiful sandbox called IT. We share our hopes and dreams, opinions both positive and critical alike, all with a touch of empathy. Because at the end of the day, especially these days, we all need a seat on that couch. Now, we're all in the midst of a very challenging time, both personally and professionally. So we thought, Matt and I, we'd take advantage of this work-from-home, bunker-down approach that everybody is being forced into right now.
Yes, they
and
are.
record an episode for you all. Yeah, and it's, let's make some productive use of our time here so we're kind of glued to our home office chairs.
Lots of people getting all stir-crazy, huh?
Yeah, and it's a little different for us, Matt, because at Ivoxy, whether or not you out there listening know this, we don't have an office to go into.
Mm-hmm.
We may have talked about this on an earlier episode, but originally...
Might have, yeah.
Yeah, originally I've actually had an office, and it was one of those things where we're paying for the office, why aren't you in the office?
One of those,
why are you in the office?
Spaces.
Right,
Yeah.
why are you in the office, not out selling, not out working with our customers?
Yeah.
So ultimately it turned into everybody, operates out of their home. That doesn't mean we are home necessarily all that often with customers, whether it's an engagement, a project, taking meetings, going to lunches, things like that. But
I know one of the ones that I've run into is my normal. I've been working from home for a week and kind of getting stir crazy. Is now everyone gets to experience that a little bit because this is kind of new for everyone, right? Or new for a lot of people, at least.
For me, the working from home, it sounds great, right? It's and people who don't work from home ever, it is great, but grass greener and all that, where I'll have days where I'm home, I'm on phone calls all day, I'm doing pre-zos, I'm doing documentation, emails, whatever, and then my wife will come home, hey, how you doing? I got to get out of here. Nice to see you. Welcome home. I'm leaving.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, I kind of do exactly the same thing. It's my better half works at a retail store, so she has to be out in public, talking to people, interacting with people all day long, and comes home and just wants to be done. Yeah. And I'm like, sweet, you're home. You're another live person, right? And that's exactly what I get.
Right. I can't answer your questions. Talk to another associate, Matt. Nice to see you too. Yeah, and for us, it's also different than a lot of our listeners too, because as of yet, neither one of us have children. So that is something that I want to make sure people know that is not lost on me, even though I don't necessarily have to experience what that must be like. But I know with schools out or remote, and then people then having to work from home, hopefully still working, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be really challenging. So hopefully you can unplug and listen to us banter for 30 minutes about really how tough our lives are right now. Not at all probably compared to those who have to deal with a whole family at home. But
there's a couple of things that I've noticed.
For a bit.
There's a couple of things that I've noticed in my perusal of the general internet is a lot of comments about I, as the IT guy, discovering that most people don't have an actual home office, don't have an actual place to work from. And I think that's one of the things we, and kind of the job we have is a little different, is I do have an office, I do have a desk, right? So I have that place to actually sit down and work versus now suddenly the majority of the workforce is forced to be home. And where is that office? Is it the dining room table or the island in the kitchen or,
Yeah, and I wonder if that's more to do with the field that we're in more than the actual job or the nature of working from home. Because I have an office because I am a nerd and I like having my multi-monitor set up and all my toys on a table. There's the office. So it's not like when I'm designing the interior of the house or whatever, it comes, I need an office. It's, where's all my cool gear going to go is really where it comes down to for me. That's the driving factor for me, at least.
Yeah, I run into a similar one. I've got the office and the shop, and it's kind of I'm double dipping there a little bit.
Yeah,
and that
well, I have that third garage that is a shop only because it's not long enough to accommodate an actual vehicle.
There you go.
So it's
That's
shop
kinda
by
nice.
necessity at that point. And
That's kinda nice.
what that means is a very dangerous area where stuff is stacked up, not organized, that every time I step into it, I bump, I trip, I fall, whatever.
I'm not going to drop a carburetor on my laptop in my office. I might in the shop.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. Well, so now that we've kind of touched base on what our lives have been like for the last, couple of weeks at least, and what everybody else out there must be dealing with, there are some interesting things that have happened in our industry in response to this. And one of them that's kind of, we're familiar with the term, but some people might not have heard it until this week or last couple of weeks, was split tunneling, and how that's become a thing. Matt, now you obviously live more on the network. I understand what we're talking about here, but I think you'd probably be better suited to explain what's the problem. Why do we want split tunneling? Why might we not have wanted split tunneling before, but now it's something that we have to look at a little bit closer? Where does that all tie in with security and access and everything?
Kind of in a general overall sense, there's some things that happen when you start turning on VPN and when you start running all of the workforce through like a single firewall. Maybe you sized your firewall when you deployed it for the 40 people, the IT group, the default package of user licenses that comes with it. So now suddenly
or
you've got
your
to
remote
push
Salesforce, right?
Right, now you got to push 200 people through this device that you sized for 40, right? So when you turn on
split tunneling, what is that?
When you turn on
do?
SSL and you turn on all of the encryption algorithms to make the VPN work, all of the traffic usually goes over that VPN. So what happens is I say, send me everything. You're a laptop connecting to this tunnel, send me everything. So split tunneling is carving out just those networks that live in the data center, that host your applications, and sending that over the tunnel, and then letting everything else just go locally over your local internet connection.
Right. So if I pull up Netflix while I'm on the VPN tunnel,
suddenly I'm tunneling
without
Netflix
split tunneling
over the firewall,
and that's a double penalty on your company's connection at that point, because at that point I'm not only going in through Netflix to the company, but the company's then going out on the internet, pulling down the Netflix, then pushing it back down that very same connection back to my house. So every bit of bandwidth is times 2.
That, yes. At least on that link, yeah.
Let me ask you this. From what I understand, the original intent of split tunneling was to get around the desired behavior, or at least I understood it to be desired, to push all traffic down that tunnel to the company for purposes of security. Supposedly it was more secure if I can't get on the internet from my laptop, except going through the company's internet, basically, that is somehow more secure. Why was that the posture? Why would that be the case?
A lot of it was fairly basic route statements. So if I take the entire RFC 1918 block, I can set that over in the data center and assign that as a route across my VPN and just accept everything that way. I want to say there's two ways to look at it, right? If I'm connected to our internal application system and allowed to get out to the internet, then I could have a virus or something running on my laptop, connect to the thing, download all the data, and just push it out. And I, as IT admin, don't get to see that egress data because it's supposed to go to you, right?
Right. I feel like that's almost a false sense of security at that point. If you say, oh, if you're pushing all your stuff through us, you can't get infected or whatever. I think there are better means of protection.
I mean, I could just download it all and then leave it and then disconnect and then
connect
it
later. Yeah, instead of getting infected right now, the next time you connect, then it gets all pushed up. It doesn't. It seems like an obscure way to claim that you're supposedly, implementing a more secure design. So we've had a few of our customers reach out to us during this in terms of, from an IT standpoint. I would say things have gotten busier for our brethren in operations in terms of supporting their entire workforce, hopefully as much as possible, all remotely at that point.
Well, it's like everyone has to do it now, right? So this we need to get VPN working is now for everyone as a customer of ours, right? All of our customers are doing this kind of thing. So there's a whole lot of that.
And firewalls themselves are one of the more expensive components in your data center. And only because it might not be the most expensive thing you have now, because you've only sized that firewall to
The
to
40
filter
users that
and
work
do
in IT, or yeah.
right now you talk about a 10 gig firewall, and you're talking big bucks at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the classic thing, right? Whenever we go size something for a customer, it's the documentation for this firewall says it's got 10 gig interfaces and I can push 8 gigs of traffic through it and then turn on security, turn on VPN,
Right.
and now you're like 200 meg, right?
Right. Yeah. And
One of the cool things that I see, I do a lot with Palo, we do a lot with ASAs. They are doing split tunneling because now the cool new thing for security is application level. So what's the app that's actually running? So they're doing split tunneling on the application and not just like, is it a internet address you can go out versus a data center address? It's now media gets split tunneling carved out. So
layer 7 basically split tunneling.
So I can write these rules at layer 7 now, and that's a whole thing.
That sounds to me an awful lot like SD-WAN dropped into the VPN paradigm. Is that kind of in the same way? Where,
I mean,
listen,
sure.
my Office 365 peering can be out of this office, or we can go direct if that ends up being a better hop, or...
I mean, when I think SD-WAN, I think of like the dynamic path choosing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily expect dynamic path selection to happen on a client VPN tunnel. More of a, I don't want to see this traffic specifically, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I just don't want it. I just don't want Netflix coming over that VPN. Netflix can land locally all of the time. Right?
My torrents going, my Linux ISO torrents,
Ubuntu
going
right?
over the yes.
That's actually one of the ones that sits there. I leave it there to seed and give back to the community my Ubuntu torrent.
Look at that. I grab you're an Ubuntu guy, right?
Yes, I am.
I'm a CentOS.
Mm-hmm.
I have been since I think my first play with Linux was when I was 13 or 14 years old, and it was Red Hat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot longer ago than you might think.
I remember poking Red Hat back in like high school.
Ago.
Yeah, forever ago.
Yeah, and I've been there since, and now it's CentOS, obviously, because I don't, in my lab, I don't need to buy enterprise licensing.
Mm-hmm.
I can just do, binary compatible. And UW's got a pretty big mirror for CentOS.
Nice.
Which I appreciate. Very much appreciate
That's
it.
Nice.
Yeah. So it is a freight train because most of our customers, almost probably all of them, have a fairly decent, firewall posture. Should we have engaged with them on networking in terms of a normal operation of handful of remote VPN users, we got this many users in the office, and the firewall can do this, and we've got a couple point tunnels, things like that. You move that entire workforce out to a client VPN standpoint, and your firewall might not even still be your bottleneck, but your ISP link could. A lot of people, I think, even though fiber and internet access has gotten cheaper, I still have seen a lot of offices. Oh, I got a 50 meg link. That's not going to support 100 users.
True, not 100 users, but a lot of times the link that Comcast tries to sell us is way overkill. I mean, you talked to, what did Max say the other day? He's got a 75 meg link, a 50 meg link from Comcast, and that's more than sufficient for what he does at home. I subscribe to the same kind of thing. The speed at which it comes down is not as important when the bandwidth isn't there. Is that the right way to say it? So like that HD Netflix pipe is only that big, right? So having a 500 gig speed connection, a 10 gig connection, whatever.
It is if there are 300 people taking that tiny bite at the same time.
Right, exactly. So that's that trade-off, right? And so that makes sense when you get, I mean, there's that who's got kids, right? When everyone gets done with their online learning now and fires up the Xbox and fires up Netflix streams, and you end up with 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 of them firing up all at once.
But I mean, even with a large push for cloud services, and we can save the debate on the longevity or what that's going to look like, the cyclical nature of IT, et cetera, what's going to look like in 10, 15 years. But without argument, consumption of cloud services is increasing. It's on the increase. And you've got, that's not in replacement of on-premise infrastructure, at least not completely. And certainly, it's not in place of on-premise workers. So what happens is, yay, great, we have this 100 meg connection, but now we have 4,000 users using Office 365. What do you think that Exchange traffic looks like from your office now?
Exactly.
Um,
There's
so
there's a couple of things that go along with that. For the last little bit, I've been putting this kind of thought process together when I go recommend stuff to a customer, and that is, if I build my data center, be it in my actual building or in an actual colo or wherever, if I build my data center and I build it as a thing to a box of all of my data center stuff, and then I treat my users to the same experience, irregardless of where they are, then this whole thing becomes quite simple, right? You're in the office or you're in Starbucks. It doesn't matter to me because you're going through the same portal. You're logging into the same set of credentials. You're logging into the same web app, desktop or whatever service to get that, to consume that. That kind of sets you up for this kind of situation to, everyone works from home. It doesn't matter because we've already accomplished that.
Yeah, well, speaking of everything already accomplished and, the internet in general and how it's been handling this, it's been certainly in the back of my mind, as in, when am I going to wake up one day, sit down in my office and be like, oh man, this is dog slow, or we're down, or what? I got to be honest with you, I don't know about you, but I don't see where we are right now. I got to think is close to the peak of internet traffic domestically, right? And there's not another subset of workers who are then going to come home and now get on the internet when they already aren't. And have you felt it at all?
I think the one that I've noticed the most, and we've brought that up a couple of times internally because we use WebEx, right? The one that I've noticed the most is WebEx. I want to say Terraform. I don't know why, but WebEx. I know, right? All of the online services.
Their audio over the internet.
Yeah, all of the services, Microsoft's Teams and Zoom.
I heard
is the one I
Zoom
was
had
thinking of.
issues.
Zoom was having issues. Everyone was like, suddenly the switch got flipped, and now, holy crap, we need scale to catch up with what the demand is, right? So I feel like that's been addressed, but that was the one that I noticed, was all of those online services and getting that busy signal when you dial in and that kind of stuff.
Impressively, it seems like that is service-based, that bottleneck, where our peering, the internet at large, with the route tables and everything, and the peering agreements seem to have done just fine. Mm-hmm. And that's impressive. That's better than what I would have guessed would have happened 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I remember 9/11, and what entire websites were. I mean, you couldn't get anywhere. Everything. And this was back in this was in 2001. Certainly they built up a more robust infrastructure in the 20 years since.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I am in.
Well, way back.
Look at me. I wouldn't call myself pessimistic, Matt, but I'm certainly not a supreme optimist. Where I'm a little bit more of a cynic, and if I certainly expect my attitude to be like, oh yeah, well, internet is what it is. We're struggling right now. There's everybody's on it.
Everyone's on it.
I haven't felt it really at all, and that is stunning.
Yeah,
it's been kind of cool to see, and good for everybody who's stuck home because, Netflix, etc. I mean, it's a stressful time. I mean, I was talking to you earlier. Yesterday was weird. I'm sitting at home and I was talking to my wife and I said, I'm depressed right now. I'm depressed about the state of things. I'm depressed for everybody who's been directly impacted, restaurant workers, food service workers. That's terrible stuff. And it was just a very stressful time. So, not that the internet's a solution to all problems, but it's nice if that's working and you can kind of unplug and zone out and just get some
unplug by plugging in, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, just the the entertainment value of that. I'm glad it's been working, even though in the European Union, did you read that article that Netflix and YouTube are stepping down their default streaming quality proactively?
I think
most
that's
people aren't even going to notice that.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see. I have no idea, but I assume we're getting up there towards capacity or something. And just imagine if something like someone like a Layer 3 or a Verizon or someone had a peering issue or a BGP issue or something and
As
take
part
down
of that
half
story,
the
though,
U.S.
I can't remember the name of the ISP, but it's a big telecom in Germany, I think, and I believe that they have a peering site that's the largest in the world,
Mhm.
and they said something like it's rated to 75 terabits a second or something like that. I don't know. And they said even with this, it's up to like 15 terabyte or 9 to 15 terabits a second, something like that.
Mhm.
Where even with the jump,
Mhm.
it still is not even close to their capacity, which again is crazy impressive.
Well, have you looked at like how they build the submarine cables, the oceanic cables from site to site?
Very few things blow my mind more than that. Like outer space is up there on the list with underwater cabling.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense when you're talking about these peering companies I'm going to invest in this cable to go halfway around the world underwater, right? So, yeah, I'm going to build it for, 20 years of life or 50, 60,
Yeah.
100 years of life, right? Because, wow,
Yeah,
there's
you don't want to
this
have to go
happens.
down there
No.
every 6 months to spin a new one up.
Mm-hmm. The part,
Oh, that's a
so
good point.
on the submarine cables thing, the part that I think is the weirdest is they actually have optical retransmitters in line in the cable. And then they push
And how are they powered?
They push DC voltage from either end.
So they're running voltage cables with the optics.
I think it like the cable is like the size of your leg, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the power is like the jacketing or the shielding. So it's like the inner layer is the positive side and the outer layer is the negative side or something like that. And then there's the bundle of cables inside of that.
And I can hit Australia in less than a fifth of a second.
Light travels super fast.
It's just and gets retransmitted super fast. That's the thing. All that stuff is still happening. It's not just point A, point B, and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It really is. Why do you think the Netflix YouTube quality downgrade thing right now is specific to Europe? What's that about?
Why Europe? I don't know. I assume they would have been doing that kind of across the board.
Yeah, it's in conjunction with Europe for some reason.
Maybe that's just who wrote the article first. I mean, you gotta expect everyone's looking at it all. So
you got to think.
Yeah.
You got to think. I've been watching personally. I know I'm behind the 8 ball on this, but little Amazon Prime, The Man in the High Castle.
Oh yeah, I never got through season 1. I got through season 1. I didn't get through.
That was my state in terms of it's a very slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
Concept is just thrilling. If you're not familiar and you're listening, it's alternate reality.
It's like what the Japanese won
Japanese
World War II, right?
And the Nazis won World War II,
yeah.
right? So, and then there's this neutral zone down the Midwest by like Denver. That's neither, DMZ kind of thing. It's really cool, and in later seasons it really develops into something, but it's a very slow burn. And the first 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, I watched them 3 years ago, and then never dusted it.
Never went back.
So my wife and I have been going through. We're finally invested, and it's very good. So anyway, 4K UHD.
Oh yeah.
Really.
Oh, you got
really
a
nice.
you got a new TV, didn't you?
Yeah, around Christmas we got an LG OLED.
Oh yeah, super great blacks.
And it's ruined. It's ruined anything else. Like LCD or LED TVs are garbage now. They look like they've got a gray screen on top of everything. It's the deep blacks and all of that. It's really a thing. So if you don't want to force yourself to spend the money on an OLED TV, don't look at one. Don't go into Costco. If you do go into Costco, put a blindfold at least the first few steps in, because that big 77-inch TV with the honey coming off that wooden stick dripping down against the black background.
Is that the one?
You just stand there. It's like, what? That's the one we got. It got us.
Yeah.
It's really so they got new ones coming out, by the way.
Yeah.
They got a 48-inch now. Coming this summer.
Okay. And that matters like because it's that UHD piece, right?
I see you looking up at your wall right now, like that would mount nicely there.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. No, I'm actually, I've hit that good enough point. It doesn't make a huge difference to me. I watch it and I kind of pay attention, and we watch a show and it's fun and it's good enough.
Huge fan of good enough. I am like, there's no need to put studs 8 inches off center when 12 will do, etc., etc. But have you seen OLED, like content on an OLED?
Can't say that I have. I probably have, but it's like walking through Costco and it's over there, and I'm not in the market
I'm
for a
with
new
you.
TV. Yeah.
I'm with you about the good enough, Matt. Do it, and you'll be like, oh crap! Now I got to quadruple my storage locally because I got to download everything that I have now in 4K and all this HDR and everything.
I don't know.
I feel like with DVD,
Yeah.
the big jump wasn't necessarily picture quality; it was sound. I think, at least for DVD, right? The 480p. The jump for me is not 4K; it is the HDR.
The HDR.
That's the jump for me. It's just the blacks and are deeper, and the brights and the whites they pop, and it's almost like too bright. It takes a little bit to get used to it, but you can't put your finger on what you're seeing or why it looks that much more realistic and better in 3D. It looks like you're there. It just is.
Right.
So it is good enough until you see it, Matt. It really is. So
well,
when you bring your car into the shop, don't test drive the new model, that kind of thing. Just don't.
Right.
Just
okay.
Don't.
Good to know. Good to know.
Have you heard about Zoom doing those background things? I heard
like
that's
the,
like
the
the
green
latest,
screen and put the beach up
like
behind
the
me.
Snapchatification of web conferencing.
I heard about that. Actually, one of the cool things. So I do ski patrol, right? And one of the cool things that the patrol did, or at least one of the groups from patrol did, was send out it was a Zoom meeting link, and I want to say it was 9, 10 of us, 12 of us on this Zoom meeting, hanging out on, what was it on the 17th? Hanging out on our green beer day, and just hanging out and being quarantined at home, drinking a beer with all of the people we know, right? And I thought that was pretty cool. And it came up then, and I was looking for a button, and I didn't see it. Is it built in, or is it like you gotta?
I haven't done something like that since 2001 with iChat on my Mac, and they had it.
All the Snap
with Mac
kids are
earlier.
chatting that way, right?
Well, Mac said he bought a backdrop just for the purposes of privacy, not for any of that goofiness.
Okay.
But for a minute there, a couple of years ago, I was doing some Twitch broadcasting because people want to watch me or something.
And play Tetris.
And I bought a green sheet.
Yeah. And
the tripod setup to hang this behind me. So theoretically, I have the setup to enable that. As the cameras get turned on more and more, because I don't necessarily think I'm using WebEx any more necessarily than usual, but the webcam goes on more. We just did our monthly engineering day last week via WebEx.
I will say, when I noticed that when we did the WebEx for engineering day, it was actually kind of nice to see a couple of people. And since we've been recording these, and we use WebEx or Zoom or whatever to do it, having the video has actually been kind of nice.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It makes it just that much more engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be socially distancing for at least another few weeks. So hopefully not too bad. I mean, I mean, not to get too far into it, but you would think that if nobody goes near anybody and if the virus has a 14-day incubation period or whatever, in a couple of weeks, everyone's kind of gone through, and that's that. Now, not realistic, but hopefully it gets about as close to that theory as possible. And I was telling you earlier, man, I think I can't wait for that first sign of, I don't want to use the word hope, but just like we're coming out of
the
this.
light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And I just, the spirit of our citizens in this country, it's going to be a raucous party, I think, when businesses and restaurants open back up. You're not going to be able to park anywhere. You're not going to be able to get in. And we'll be back to our normal flow of, light traffic here in the Seattle area.
I don't know, the couple of times I've had to drive in, it's been kind of nice having kind of empty roads.
Yeah, and you have like Silent Hill playing in the background.
Right?
Yeah. If nothing else, we've had some beautiful weather here.
True.
And I got to think that's making a big difference versus if it were rainy and gloomy. I mean, I just
lots of walk with the dogs, right?
Families up and down our street, walking around, some joggers exercising. We're looking forward to going into this weekend and hopefully coming out with some good news at the start of the week for sure. Yeah. Well, so if anybody listening out there is dealing with the challenges of their user base working from home, or want to talk a little bit more about any change that might need to happen or how to better secure the endpoints, because that's where things like Cisco ICE and whatnot come in, where, like you said, Palo Alto as well, where you can secure your user base before they're allowed to connect to your network.
There's a couple of different ways to handle that though too. We can do the classic VPN. You can also do stuff like remote desktop, right? Or Horizon View. Or didn't you send a link about Amazon doing their, like, I want to say that was a whole new software as a service cloud-based desktop workstation thing. Wasn't that what I saw?
It wasn't for me if you did see it.
Okay.
But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a bunch of different ways to slice that melon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the virtual desktop even before any of this. And a lot of people who do take their work home, physically taking their work home, USB drive, whatever, dangerous. But if you've got a desktop at home, and I believe the new version of Horizon View allows you to connect to a physical desktop virtually.
Oh yeah.
So I think you could just load an agent on your physical desktop, and then you can log in, right? Which that way you just go home on your laptop, pop in that, and you're sandboxed. You're not going to transfer a virus from your laptop at home through a virtual desktop session onto that desktop.
Right. Yeah.
Like you said, a great idea.
I think the biggest struggle I have with the VDI piece is because it's not my daily driver. I have to go step into this environment, right?
Yeah.
And then I run into copy and paste issues.
What is the data? I guess, right? So if virtual desktop is nothing more than just the applications you use, and then you access a shared data repository, persistent data cache, whether that's your home directory or whatever, then I guess the desktop itself doesn't matter as much, right? If it's just an application delivery tool.
Right. And that's exactly what I was saying. Is like for us, our daily drivers are the laptop, right? My laptop, your laptop. That's where everything I do lives. All my reference material, all of my notes, all my everything.
And oftentimes we're located somewhere that we can't stream a desktop in.
Right.
We're cut off.
Or you have to do this copy paste thing across this session and do
Don't get me started on copy paste. It's 2020 and I can't get it done. I can't do it.
Why don't printers work yet? I'm so happy I never have to troubleshoot a printer again. I say that, and we're going to buy one and put it downstairs or something. But
so let me give you a little bit of advice. I'm not paid to say this, and I'm not making any money off this. After years of HP and Canon $80 printers that are multifunction and do it all, brother.
Yeah.
I got a Brother color laser.
Jet. Yep, with a toner.
Jet. Color laser. It's got 4 or 5 toner cartridges. You can get a set of them for like $50. The color toners.
And then when you print maps or something and take them out into the rain and they get rained on, they don't run. Yeah, it's the roommate had one. It's awesome.
Really, one of the things also was not even the printing itself, but on the other aforementioned, the HP, the Canons, you go to print wirelessly because it's nice to put my printer in the corner of the room. And, I got to cycle power to get it to wake up or whatever. This Brother has never in 4 years, never, ever, ever failed to wake up when I send a print job to it.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's the thing is that I use the printer so infrequently. When I do use it, just work. And so when it was before, and my wife would be like, hey, can you, there's something up with this printer. I just wanted to pick the
45
thing up
minutes.
and spike it.
Yeah.
It's just like, this thing's not worth it. Let's just drive down the FedEx.
Yeah. For what? A nickel a print? A couple of cents for a page? Yeah. It's almost
you don't need a label printer.
Yeah.
Those are the worst.
Yeah.
Those are the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they were. Okay.
Stop labeling cables.
Anyway, are you hunkering down with anything specific? Have you stocked the fridge, stocked the pantry? What's your tip for survival in the work from home days?
Well, obviously, I don't need toilet paper. It's hilarious to watch. I don't get it. Why toilet paper? Out of all of the things, why that? It blows my mind. Staples. Like, I actually went and talked to my mom the other day. They're in their, I want to say their 70s. And so it was some of those like, Mom, how do I cook? Right? How do I cook from flour? Because we can do chicken noodle casserole or something, right? But I don't have any noodles. So what do I do with this giant tub of flour?
Oh, that's what you mean by staples. I thought you were talking like literally staples, and I'm like, where's he going with this?
No, like the core stuff, right? So some flour, sugar, canned stuff that can sit on a shelf and not go bad. We've actually kind of started working through pantry items. So we kind of did an inventory of the chest freezer and saw what we had in there.
I saw somebody posted a meme and I laughed. Say something like they showed all the flour. Flour's gone at my local store, and it said something like, "Funny how all them gluten allergies went out the window." Because what's what I could have bought gluten-free flour.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how that doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I found that pretty funny. Yeah.
So, I mean, not going
ground
crazy.
Turkey seems to be scarce too.
What?
Plenty of red meat.
Mm-hmm.
But turkey and chicken were. I just went today and picked up some turkey because I make a pretty good turkey chili.
Mm.
But that was scarce for a little while. Certainly a lot more than red meat.
Yeah. I got quite a few shoulders. So there's going to be some slow cooker pulled pork coming up here.
I made some last night.
Oh yeah.
I told you about the little controller I made, right? The
you
Raspberry Pi.
You
with
got the
fan.
pie and the fan and it. Yeah.
Click on, click off,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the only source of air for the smoker, so it can control the fire intensity. And like a month ago, I bought 2 little 3-pound pork shoulders, like buy one get one.
Yeah.
So it was like $4 a piece.
Yeah.
So I just threw that on there. I gave no effort whatsoever. I'm like, whatever. If this thing comes out like charcoal, it doesn't matter. I've lost nothing.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I mean, it's hard to screw up a pork shoulder, right? But most importantly, the actual Raspberry Pi, graphing to Grafana and tracking all of that, it worked.
I saw some of those. They looked pretty cool.
It worked. The only thing is the thermocouple, which basically is the little probe.
Mm-hmm.
It was on an average, it was accurate, but it could go down 9-10 degrees from 1 second to the next, and that unnerves me a little bit. But ultimately, is
it just like the size of a pen or something like a?
It's about 50 millimeter.
Okay,
so 5 centimeters.
So it's a tiny little thing. You might think about something like putting it in some water, so that you don't get cold air blowing across it or hot air blowing across it.
That's for the smoker. The actual meat probe, which was the same probe, exhibited the same behavior.
Ah, okay.
Which is weird because that's in the meat.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Maybe you need some high quality sensors.
It probably is that too.
Yeah.
But fun little project. It worked out, and yes, smoking. Yes to that. Cool.
Okay.
Well, let me know. I mean, I know it. As long as we don't have to shelter in place and our group equals less than 10 people, I'm down for a little pulled pork. Even in the apocalypse, I'm down with that.
Apocalypse pork.
Yes.
Yes.
Matt will post the address on the Twitter.
There you go. We'll be all over that.
Well, thanks for listening. Sticking with us for this COVID-19 version of Data Center Therapy. Yep. If you are not already subscribed, catch us out on iTunes and Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast. We'd love a review on iTunes and Spotify if you would be so kind. Check us out at ivoxy.com, and if there are topics you'd like to hear about, write us at podcast@ivoxy.com. And for Matt, I am Matt. Thank you again for listening. Everybody, wash your hands. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. God bless. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one.